Washington has become the first United States state to officially recognize Islamic holidays as state holidays. So they now, just to put it into perspective, okay, the state of Washington, which does not officially recognize Easter or Yom Kippur as state holidays, now actually recognize two Islamic holidays. I don't even know how to say that. You know why? I'm an American. How do you say it? Eid al-Fitr?
Couldn't tell you.
Two Islamic holidays as unpaid state-recognized holidays when Democrat Governor Bob Ferguson signed the legislation into law earlier this month. So some of their other state holidays, again, just to put it into perspective, the 13th of January, Korean American Day. They have Columbus Day, Former Prisoner of War Recognition Day, Washington Army Air National Guard Day, Purple Heart Recipient Recognition Day, Washington State Children's Day, Mother Joseph Day, Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, National Korean War Veterans Armistice Day. There are a lot of state holidays. Cesar Chavez Day, which is another good one. Public Lands Day, Blood Donor Day. I mean, they've got all sorts of days here. But then you have the first Islamic state holiday. No state has done it before. Washington said, hold my beer. I'm going to be the one. Listen, I'm not saying we could have, I can't wait to hear your thoughts, gentlemen. We can have the conversation about what it meant to say that, freedom of religion and all of that. But there's no Christian recognition here. There's no Jewish recognition.
When you cover the story right initially, it's
just Islamic.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. You said Easter wasn't recognized as a state holiday? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the headline right there. That's more of the story. Mm-hmm. That they're recognizing this versus
state does
that.
not. Yeah, so the state does not recognize Christian holidays.
I would acknowledge that over just the fact that it's just some Muslim holiday that I have no idea what it is, what it's supposed to
that's what I'm saying.
Or anything like that. That in itself is very telling. I don't know what the demographics are like over there in Washington, if they are kind of like what Minnesota has, where it's just like Somalians have taken over the entire state. I don't know what the case is religiously as far as the demographics or ethnic background or any of that with Washington, but I would imagine that has to be, you have to have a pretty sizable, or this
either
guy's
that,
just
or
signaling like a son of a gun, which
exactly, and that's what
maybe
it's
that's
like.
Worse.
Either that, or he's just virtue signaling and saying, it's okay, we'll bow down to you, I guess, maybe. Because there is a very serious problem. We could talk about that, but there is a very serious problem in this country where you have these Islamic populations that are coming in and they've got these whole communities. I mean, we're dealing with it here in Texas, where everyone's like, so are you guys implementing Sharia law here? Because that's illegal. And again, I'm not saying, I want to be very clear here before I get some Media Matters hit on me. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to practice what religion you'd like, but the problem is that with Islam, it's just that it's like their duty in their religion to have Sharia law. Sharia law is not compatible with the Constitution and our laws, which you kind of come to a juxtaposition where you're like, okay, so if you're following the Constitution, you're not following Sharia law, so I guess you're not a good Muslim according to your own books. Or you're following Sharia law and you're doing all sorts of things that are illegal here. And so which one is it?
It's a great point. I used to be a very politically moderate young man, and then about 10 years ago, I read a book by a guy named Glenn Beck called It Is About Islam, where he goes through the teachings of this religion, and it really, it sort of radicalized me. And so, yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. The Founding Fathers would not have even recognized this to be a legitimate thing. I mean, when the Founding Fathers say freedom of religion, that means freedom to practice Christianity how you will, independence from the Vatican. They would not have recognized the schizophrenic sand religion as something that's valid, much less compatible with our culture. I mean, even Thomas Jefferson famously fought a war against the Arab pirates, and he's probably maybe the most liberal founding father, some would argue. So, yeah, I can recognize sort of the inclusion of African or maybe Indians, indigenous people, or even Hispanics in the southwest of the country as being a part of American history, and we can all sort of live together so long as we're not attacking our history and just coming together. But there's no place, frankly, for Islamic populations to come over and establish their own beachhead. That's not what this country was supposed to be about. I saw something the other day, for example. I saw like 30 Egyptians in a coffee shop at once. And to me, like, Egyptians are supposed to be something that you learn about in school as like this sort of like mythical, like, ooh, wow, kind of like, Atlantis or like Vikings. They're not like real. Like, you just sort of like learn about them in the pyramids and it's like, oh, that's fascinating. And then now you're seeing like these weird demographics that should never be in America. Now they're here and they do the same thing that all these other immigrant groups do, which is they establish these like ethnic beachheads and they only do business with each other and they share the wealth and they consolidate political power, which I understand. That's what I would do if I were in that position, but I'm not. I'm in my position, which is trying to defend my country from everybody who wants to come in and pick at the bones and, disenfranchise normal Americans. So yeah, anything that's trying to put up like a welcome sign for these people who it's a numbers game. I mean, they outnumber us like what? 1,000,000 to 1 or something. I mean, that's probably bad arithmetic, but we're like Washington State. I don't know what their population is, but if they're putting up a big welcome sign for immigrants to come over from the Middle East and settle there, it's like you're going to overrun that state very quickly.
So I can't speak to what religion these people practice because I realize you don't have to come from those countries to practice, Islam or be a Muslim. But according to Washington State's own Office of Financial Management, it's like 75% white. Which again, like you can't automatically equate and say, oh, well, all of those white people are not Muslims. But I mean, if you're just going by more statistics, like statistically, this is probably just virtue signaling, which to your point, John, means you're just giving a welcome sign and asking them, hey, come resettle here. You see what has happened in Europe. You see that one of the most common names now in the UK is Mohammed. Yep. And their whole point is to repopulate more than us. I mean, there are many imams who are saying it. They want to come here. They want to settle in places like, I guess Washington's like, hey, come over here. We'll take you. In places like Texas, with this epic city that's now being investigated by it's being investigated by Ken Paxton's office here in this country. It's being investigated by the Texas Rangers for potential criminal activities in this epic city. Where it's an all-encompassing, they've got commercial, they've got retail, they've got restaurants, they've got a mosque, they've got a park, they've got everything all in one so that they never have to leave. And the question was, are you practicing Sharia law? But you have these imams and you have these higher figures within their religion who are saying, we're going to repopulate this place. We're going to repopulate this country. Their rates are declining. Saying Americans, right? Their rates are declining. Ours are not. And soon we will just be the majority and there will be nothing that you can do about it. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, go look at what is happening in the UK right now where they are doing just that. And you have actual no-go zones because they are doing just that and they are outnumbering them.
That's what a lot of people are going to take exception to. Look, if it were some case of them limiting whatever I'm all for decentralization. So if you want to set up shop in your little silly corner and do whatever goofy shit, I prefer that you do that and I don't have to, kind of come to whatever rules that is that you're trying to implement. That said, that's often not the case. Definitely when you're dealing with those types of individuals that are pretty adamant and pretty straightforward about the fact that they want to more so infiltrate and use the political power, especially that already exists, in order to implement whatever they vision as utopia, I guess, in their case. And to your point, Constitution aside, I would argue just culturally, it's really just incompatible.
It is.
with this country, especially particular pockets of it. So I don't really understand what the move is. I mean, hearing those demographics, it's highly unlikely that most of those white folk out there are practicing Muslims. So I don't really know what direction they're trying to go there with that, but it is very interesting, and I think it does say more than anything that in comparison to one of the more recognized holidays, at least in this country, and Easter, you're recognizing that over that. Yeah, you probably are going to have some problems in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb to add to Eric's point and say with that 75% that are white, there's probably a great deal more of them that are both Christian and Jewish rather than Muslim.
Yeah, if I had to put my tinfoil hat on, I think it would probably be that Washington, because it's so liberal, can kind of act as like a beta testing, so to speak, for, you know, the direction of like the National Democrat project. And so, like, you know, they can be more socially progressive and sort of see how that plays out with their base. And I think the Democrats are realizing that they've lost white people, they've lost Hispanics, at least the amount that they need to consistently win federal elections. So it's like, okay.
Well, the illegal ones that are voting, they didn't lose.
Well,
they do have the illegals.
That's true. But if Trump is successful with like voter ID and election integrity, like they need some new population. And if they can start putting up that welcome sign or that bat signal to let like Arabs know, like, hey, come move to these maybe purplish states, these blue states, consolidate power. There's a lot of money too. I mean, those cities that they're building, like those aren't cheap. Like they do have money when they come over. And if I were like a soulless vampire and I wanted just more money, and I'm seeing these Arabs, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know that was on the menu. Like, there was no like Arab money 25 years ago. I mean, now that's a thing. Everyone just found out this year about like Jewish money for the first time. So it's like the only toy they want to play with. But there's still a ton of Arab money and Chinese money. There's all sorts of money. There's no patriot money though. So yeah, if I were like a soulless vampire and I saw like Arabs just like, my friend, do you want my, like, I would take it, and do that.
My friend.
That's what they say, or boss. Yeah.
If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.